Of public administration. Some theories are very important in public administration as we want to discuss here. The administration effort that generalizing the achieve the goal. What is the public administration to achieving the goals? Okay, this achieving of the goals, they are collective goals linked to the individual goals and aspirations such as need for education, health, security, economic development. To cooperation of two or more entity, usually purpose to cooperation is established as to as achieve this purpose. Meanwhile, there have been development and change that have completely changed civilization. The third wave. Alvin Toffler given the third wave. Okay, third wave reflected that communication is one such development in the history of mankind that the completely changed the trajectory of human civilization. It's changed the way of knowledge and information collected, assessed, and stored. The goal of government have become more complex and demanding. They have to man by skilled resources, so to achieve their goal, this has increased the demand for efficient and effective management. And function of government have become increasingly the government are engaged the both development and non-development era. So that's why needs of the machine methods and main and organization. Okay, so machine the design of the shape of organization, design shape of deal with the specialization, hierarchy and span of control. Method is the procedure, communication, planning, organizing, PO and accounting, reporting and budgeting. Main is the human resource of the organization and the personnel also. So an organization has two components, inanimate which is non-living, which is the method, and machine non-living, and one is the living component which is animated component which is the man. So the success of achieving the goals of organization depend on the efficient management of elements and components. From 18th century onward, the government were increasingly under pressure to move towards the popular sovereign. The industrialization on the other hand pressurized the firm and enterprises to increase the unit of production. The industry require innovation, become larger in size. The technological advancement increased the demand for skills. The unskilled and semi-skilled could no longer operate technologically demand of the machine, the traditional methods also. So there was some theories was come in that time. One was the classical theory. Classical theory was dealing with the organization. Consider the organization assets or set of assembling of the positions and include the scientific management, operational management, bureaucratic management like Taylor, Fayol and Weber. And second one is non-classical theory. Non-classical theory emphasizes on the human element. It assumes the organization assemblage of the function and interactions. Some of the important are Mayo, Alton Mayo, Chester Bernard, and Simon and Chris Argyris and McGregor and Linkert. So these were the theories. And modern theories was the emphasis on the human element plus the boundaries of the organization. These are include the system and the contingency approach. So system approach and the contingency approach is known as the modern theory. It talks about the system and the environment. Okay, so now all theories, classical, neoclassical and modern, have one primary focus: efficiency, effectiveness and economy. And the concept underlying the theory may differ from primary objective remain the same for all theory. Now first was the Frederick W. Ricks. Taylor. So Taylor was the scientific proponent of the scientific management. He was the previously organization and firm were run in the unorganized and unscientific manner. He underlined the organization is the unorganized and unregulated, and Hawkway was known as the rule of thumb. So he talked about the rule of thumb. Okay, so Frederick Taylor, he more or less started the scientific management. Scientific management was given by him and significant development in the administration. They searched for organized thought and principle to run the industry successfully, and also organization study of the organizational management. So Frederick Taylor considered the father of the scientific management. Father of the scientific management. Okay. So he was the Enterprises Hydraulic Work Philadelphia, joined the Midwell steel company and manufacturing investment company in Maine. From developed this time in research work upon techniques of scientific management. So he given the piece rate system, shop management, the art of cutting tool, piece rate system, art of cutting tool, shop management, principle of scientific management, and most important work Taylor, which include almost all the research and work ideal. So Taylor was the identification of the problem, what are the problems, and principle of scientific management, elements of the scientific management. So Taylor tried to identify the problems or reasons what that was responsible for loss in the production, and could identify number of loopholes in present at level of hierarchy and organization causing inefficiency. Initiated incentive based management, even basis of rule of thumb. He was against the rule of thumb. Taylor believed that managers were lazy and result our laborer had to do work on their own initiative. Besides, the laborer did the work for their incentive salary. This is referred initiative and incentive based management. He observed that the management neglected their own duties and functions and shifted their burden to the laborer. He advocated that the management should take up their responsibility determining the standards, planning work, organizing, controlling, and devising initiatives. So, soldering in the organization. Taylor was talking about the soldering. So soldering was employed tend to restrict the work output. This is referred as soldering by Taylor. There are two types of soldering, namely natural and systematic soldering in organization. The natural soldering is the restriction of output and result in natural cause such as inherent quality, individual like shy, idle, lazy, incapable. The natural soldering of Taylor can be rectified by the either persuasion or outreach thread. The natural soldering as such was not very problematic. The systematic soldering, which is also refers as second thought of reasoning, tend to problematic for the organization. The reason behind the systematic soldering was that incentives were paid for the attendance instead of paying for the work. So, a principle of scientific management. He given the development of true science. True science should be developed. The arrangement, most analysis, study of organization scientifically. Scientific study of organization should come out with the one best way to doing the work. So one best way to doing the work. Next was the scientific selection and training and development of work. So skill in the systematic and scientific manner, the worker then should be trained systematically. The management should take up the responsibility of development and opportunity, bringing together of science of work and worker who are scientifically selected and trained. So principle of core of the scientific management, he referred this is the mental revolution. So mental revolution is like to division of the profit between the workers and management, to cooperate between to each other. So willfully and readily cooperate to each other. Workers are most of time willing to cooperate with management, but there is more opposition from the management. So process of coming together management and worker cause mental revolution. The revolution is required for efficient running of organization. The division of work and responsibility between the management and worker. Principle of Taylor counter attack philosophy, lazy manager. The manager according to the Taylor should take up his work and responsibility rather than shifting the burden. So Taylor talked about the scientific management and harmony. Scientific management, not rule of thumb. Harmony, not individualism. Cooperation, not individualism. Maximum output, not restricted output. Development and greater efficiency, economy and accountability. So element of scientific management was given by Taylor, that was time and motion study. Taylor himself conducted the experiments was there. Wage payment system was given there. Wage payment system, this payment system adopted to remove the systematic soldering in the organization. Taylor felt that payment based on attendance is a disincentivize the worker. The payment should be rather based on differentiate piece rate system. So Taylor talked about the differentiate piece rate and the system, differentiate pieces system, and he is supervised by the supervisor referred foreman. The foreman was responsible for supervising every aspect of work in the worker. Taylor then realized that this is against the principle of specialization, so he recommended that the one foreman should be supervise one particular function. Thus the system got the name functional foremanship. Functional foremanship. He given the functional foremanship, decentralization and centralization. All the scientific activity that were supposed to taken up by the manager were handled over foreman, and power from manager to foreman. This is given by the Taylor. So principle of the exceptions also given by the Taylor. Principle of the exception. This principle was that according to him, the manager has to intervene if the worker were unable to meet the targeted output. Targeted output fixed by the foreman. In these situations, it was clear that foreman had not done their job. So he given the functional foremanship, in which he given the work and route clerk, instruction clerk, time and cost clerk, and shop discipline. 4 person will be there for intellectual work. This is work and route clerk, instruction clerk, time and cost clerk, and shop discipline. The executive category was like gang boss. Now second category is the gang boss, and speed boss, and inspector and the repair boss. The work and route clerk detail everything related to work such as time, technique, manpower, sequence. Establish the best possible way by conducting experiment. He gave language to the work for clarity and working. Time and cost clerk maintain the records of the work performance. The disciplinarian is responsible maintaining norms and regulations. The gang boss is field boss who is responsible giving instruction, card worker, arrangement of equipments, communication, competition. The speed boss ensured the job is done in targeted time. The inspector took stock production, ensured quality of production, OMM. So mental revolution, scientific management according to Taylor primarily involve the complete mental revolution. Worker and manager mutual interests are not antagonistic, rather mutual prosperity possible only through the mutual cooperation. So usually the industrial environment, worker and manager warfare, this is industrial warfare should be replaced by industrial harmony and cooperation. Attention towards the increasing size of surplus until the surplus become completely unnecessary. So impact of scientific management opened the way of improvement and successful venture. It brought about the more effective labor, material and management capability. It promote new culture value sharp in contrast to those existing the time. It emphasizing eliminating waste, effort, machinery, skill and time. It promoted harmony and cooperation, and to practice the scientific management business government. There was a great deal to enthusiastic for the application of principle of scientific management. Scientific method developed by Taylor influenced great leaders, Gante, Frank and Lillian Gilbert, Bedaxe, Halsey. They developed Taylor's thinking, work study, industrial engineering, personal management, method, productions, and it also spread to number of countries such as England, France, Soviet Union, policy to centralize authority, and as a necessary step to road to socialism. The principle of scientific management translate into the language French, German, Dutch, Swedish, Russian. So this was the important because of